Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. Today we are trying out a new card from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set in a very aggressive deck here. So the new card is Super Shredder. This is a 2-mana 1/1 with Menace. Whenever another permanent leaves a battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So this works quite similarly to Moonshadow, where permanents put into your graveyard end up growing it. So we're playing a bunch of stuff that feeds this, and obviously Dragon's Rage Channeler helps us put stuff into the graveyard from Moonshadow. It gets Delirium. If we want to be putting stuff in the graveyard anyway, it's going to be pretty good at getting us Delirium. So all the stuff just kind of works really well here. Like the Nethergoyf, Moonshadow, and Dragon's Rage Channeler is just such a powerful group of 1-drops, and then we can obviously curve it into the Shredder. Now you might be saying, why are you running 4 of this legendary creature? And I will answer that with the fact that A, we want to try out the new card and see what it's like. But B, if we draw a second one, we just cast it, it sacrifices the legend rule, and it grows our Super Shredder, maybe gives us Delirium, can grow our Nethergoyf, can also grow our Moonshadow. Like if we've got Moonshadow and Super Shredder out, we draw another one. We just pay 2 and put a counter on both of our guys, or remove a counter from the Moonshadow, you know what I mean. That's pretty reasonable. So we're going to try that out, and hopefully we can select if we don't want them using the Dragon's Rage Channeler. We've got the things you'd expect here, like a bunch of baubles to trigger these things, and the Lotus Petal. Wasteland here is really nuts with the old Shredder, because you Wasteland them, and you put 2 +1/+1 counters on your Shredder. Okay, sign me up. Thoughtseize, like I've mentioned, we can just, poke holes in our opponent's hand. We've got Lightning Bolt for early removal that can also go to the face, because we are an aggressive deck. We have Molten Collapse, which can kill some creatures that might be getting in our way, things like the Barragoyf. But hopefully we can just get our opponent dead before we have to worry about Barragoyf and then menace our way through it. And then we have Fireblast. This is one that you don't see that often in Legacy, but it's very powerful. So this is, we sacrifice 2 mountains to deal 4 damage to any target. Sacrificing 2 mountains is going to grow our Moonshadow and our Super Shredder. That's pretty solid. And 4 damage to help us close games is really good. And there's another card here that you might have seen. You might be asking, why is this in your deck? And that is Seal of Fire. So this is a 1-mana enchantment that just sits in play and deals 2 damage to any target when you sacrifice it. So this is a burn spell that we can play out proactively to get our Surveil triggers. But then we can sacrifice it whenever we want to go and pump our creatures. And it can also go to the face when we're trying to be an aggro deck. I think this card is actually really good in this little deck, and I want to try it out. It also means that you can do a curve of play Seal of Fire on turn 1, then play the Super Shredder, and be able to make sure it can dodge a Orcish Bowmaster straight away by just Seal of Firing away. And obviously having a different card type, being an enchantment, means it's going to be easier to get Delirium and also grow our Goyfs to be even larger. Our mana base is a bunch of fetch lands to trigger our various bits and pieces. We've got 4 Badlands, 1 Blood Crypt. I think we wanted a 5th one of these sorts of lands, but maybe we could just cut this and have 1 more spell because we do have the Lotus Petals in there. That's one of the things I'm going to be looking for today. And we have a Raucous Theater as well, because sometimes surveilling is going to grow the Moonshadow or our creatures that care about graveyards. In terms of our sideboard, we've got some answers for Leyline in the Void and Feed the Swarm. Super Shredder doesn't care about Leyline in the Void, but the rest of our creatures do. So we've got Feed the Swarm to deal with that. We've got Molten Collapse to deal with creatures. Obviously, Feed the Swarm can deal with big creatures too. We've got a couple of Pyroblast for things like Murktide and Show and Tell decks. A couple of Hexing Squelchers against the sort of slower control decks. Later on the Voids, we've got some game into some of these graveyard combo decks. A Feed the Cycle, just as another removal spell to go alongside this Molten Collapse when we need to blow up Barragoyf in particular. And then we have 2 Dread of Night for the energy decks. Now, some of the really fast combo decks will be able to go underneath us. I think we just have to accept that and just hope that Thoughtseize and a bunch of burn spells can get us there. And that's just kind of, our Lane on the Void is trying to do that. And then against the Show and Tell decks, we've got a couple of Pyroblast, we've got the Thoughtseizes, and we've got the Wastelands, and that can be a reasonable attempt at getting through. And sometimes they'll Show and Tell something in, then pass the turn, and then maybe we can just burn them out or attack with our Menace creatures. So that's the plan today. We're going to be attacking our opponents quickly and hopefully for great amounts of damage. So remember to like and subscribe, and let's get stuck in. For free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping on high-end singles, classic products, and full sets, check out 3for1 Trading. Whether it's the legacy or pre-modern that I play on this channel, or even vintage and old school, they've got you covered. Find them through the link in the description of this video and use my code COW3 for free worldwide shipping on your first order over $500 or euros. Okay, how do I want to play this one? We can start growing Super Shredder straight away. Like, we're definitely keeping. I think we're probably doing like Channeler, possibly Thoughtseize. Well, if we draw a land, we can go Channeler on 1, then next turn we can do Super Shredder, Thoughtseize, Bauble, just make a giant Shredder. We do have to worry about some potential counter magic here. We did draw the land though. Let's play this Dragon's Rage Channeler. Play this Bauble. We don't have to crack these this turn, we can just have them in play. A Moonshadow. Do I want this Moonshadow in play? We kind of already have the Shredder to do that. I think we can put this in the graveyard and start just working towards Delirium. I'm going to play out this Lotus Petal as well. We don't need his land. Okay. And then we'll pass. We're trying to get max value out of our Shredder here. Meticulous Archive. Underground Sea. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say. Pretty good against our Mishra's Bauble. But I don't think Shredder cares. Do I need to Thoughtseize first here? To make sure that we can resolve our Shredder. It's kind of our only threat. So we could have prevented our Dragon's Rage Channeler from being killed last turn if we'd have cracked like our Lotus Petal to Thoughtseize. Do I have to get my Thoughtseize in first? Or do I just play the Shredder into potential days? I guess we can play around days if I have Force of Will. It's kind of annoying. Right, let's go for the Shredder. Try and maximize our damage capabilities. Let's Thoughtseize you. You got a Source of Plowshares or something over there I can take. A Force of Will, a Shoulder's Edict, and a Ponder. Okay, I guess we take the Shoulder's Edict here. So cracking these baubles is going to come with a pretty significant cost, but we can crack them and then block, and then we won't have the draw straight away. So we can kind of navigate this a little bit. They're going for a Ponder, and then the Undercity Sewers to mill over one of the cards in their Ponder pile that they kept, a Tundra. I don't think we're getting attacked here. A Marsh Flats. Do you want to Force of Will my Molten Collapse? They do not. Okay, we'll yield to the Shredder. Very Time Raveler. That's an annoying one, actually. The top card of our library here. It's a Fireblast. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I'll take that Fireblast rather than shuffling it away. So we're going to attack him for 5. Our opponent's going to play this Teferi and bounce our poor defenseless Super Shredder. And then we can draw this Fireblast and then we can play out the Shredder. We have the fetch land to crack for a Surveil land. Once Shredder's in play. Okay, maybe not Surveil land because we've just drawn it, but that's fine. More lands to sacrifice is fine. Here comes a Teferi. Up you go, Mr. Shredder. And we take 1 from the Orc army, I would assume. There's the Flood Strand we knew about earlier. Oh, they've got a follow-up play as well. Probably just a cantrip. Oh no, maybe we're getting Thoughtseized here. Okay, they're going to see our Fireblast. But they're going to take the Shredder because this is the recursive damage here. Alright, I think our opponent's done enough here. A Wasteland. Alright, let's get this Raucous Theater going. A Molten Collapse. I'll keep that one. We can always shuffle away if we need to later. Because we've still got this this fetch land. I'd rather use this to grow our other creatures. Ponder from our opponent. So no holding up Hardcast Force of Will. If they'd have just dropped a land this turn and passed, they could have done that and chipped in. But they might not have had the land. I think moving some cards around is better, especially when they know we've got pretty much nothing over here. Tamiyo is obviously a very strong Magic the Gathering card. Take one from this. Are we supposed to be answering the Teferi or the Tamiyo here? I think it's the Teferi, as weird as that is. I'll play out this land. We could have waited for them to try and flip it and then try and get this with the Descended. So you can destroy target creature or planeswalker, then destroy non-creature, non-land permanent. So that'd be a 1-mana planeswalker. We are under the gun here from this Tamiyo. Our aggression wasn't good enough. Maybe we were supposed to just not try and go all in on that Shredder and just try and build up our little Dragon's Rage Channeler a little bit more so that we don't get Bowmastered. Because then we could have been chipping in for 3 every turn. And our opponent's probably dead at this point. So yeah, I think we just messed up by not going all in. I wasn't expecting them to just drop a Black Source and Bowmaster us. I thought they were playing like a blue-white style Failure deck. That's the most common thing I would expect from a Meticulous Archive. We don't have a second Surveil land, so we're just drawing a card here. Our opponent probably has Force of Will ready to go. We've drawn another land. Do I want to keep playing this one? I guess we do have a lot of burn in our deck, don't we? Now we can just hardcast a Fireblast. Although I don't really want to hardcast, I want to use it to fuel our other creatures. The problem is our opponent is drawing extra cards every turn. Okay, this Tamiyo has been good for 2 cards so far. A Murktide Regent. That's going to be a 7/7. So that's quite a lot of damage coming our way. I don't think we're going to resolve with Super Shredder though. That is the problem. Alright, we just draw another land. I think we can call it a day there. And that Tamiyo was worth, what, 2 cards? Probably 3 cards when all is said and done. Things I'm interested in. Ways of dealing with Barragoyf. Sorry, feed the swarm, not feed the cycle. Sorry, feed the cycle, not feed the swarm. So this selection of things I am interested in to a degree. What are we cutting here? The Thoughtseizes feel pretty strong. Are we trimming on Fireblasts? That gets us a couple of Squelchers and another Molten Collapse. And then if we want these 3 cards, we're going to have to cut something else. We could probably trim a Bauble and maybe a Petal and get in a couple of these. I think the Feed the Cycle is better than the Pyroblast. This can kill Murktide region and Barragoyf, whereas the Pyroblast can only kill the Murktide region. Maybe trim 1 seal for a Pyroblast. Try this. Okay, well, we obviously can't keep this one. It's got no lands. Okay, we can keep this one. What are we putting back? Additional Dragon's Rage Channeler, maybe? Or the 2-drop. Like, we want to see how good this Shredder is, but we don't really have the stuff to make it work right now. I'm going to put back one of the Channelers here. I don't know if our opponent's going to be running Engineered Explosives, but just having a different mana cost is probably going to be useful. It doesn't really matter which way around we do this. So I'm just going to go crack this for Badlands. Play out the Moonshadow. That's Lotus Petal. Do we just play out another threat, or do we Thoughtseize our opponent here? I kind of like playing out another threat, to be honest. Like, our opponent can plow one of them, but then we're still going to have pressure coming in next turn. And then our Thoughtseize gets a lot better if Dragon's Rage Channeler's in play, because then we get the Surveil. Right, I assume we're just going to see a Source of Plowshares here. Our opponent's going to keep removal against us. Oh, no. Okay, so we're going to get a good turn here. They shuffled off that Ponder. Wouldn't mind seeing a land here. We didn't see a land. I will Thoughtseize my opponent, though. Can we Surveil to make this a bigger guy? Land. We kind of want this land is the problem. So I guess we're keeping this on top. So we're not going to be able to trigger this. What have we got here? Barragoyf, Stock Up, Force of Will, Plow. Kind of more worried about the Barragoyf than anything else, if I'm being honest. Plow, Snap, Plow is certainly a doozy that we were going to have to work out at some point. Like, I could take the Plow and just hope that we can get the game won before the Barragoyf does its thing. That seems like a very sketchy place to be. We do have more removal for the Barragoyf, though. So what do they do next turn? Alright, I'm going to take this Plow. And we're going to gamble on the fact that we just brought in a bunch of answers to Barragoyf. It's only 3 damage, which is not quite the number I would like it to be. They did shuffle off their previous Ponder, so they don't have a guaranteed land drop yet. The Snapcast can jump in and trade with a Dragon's Rage Channeler if that ends up being a thing that happens here. What are we doing? I think we're going for sacrificing this. I could Surveil to try and hit the extra type, or I could just play this Super Shredder pre-combat, and if they counter it, then the Dragon's Rage Channel will be Delirious. And if they don't, then we have a Super Shredder. Alright, so we don't have to worry about the Snapcaster Mage anymore. They're presumably looking for their 3rd land here. They kept the card on top. Alright, the Force of Will is going to happen here, which is going to grow both of our creatures here. So we get to bash in for 7 here. So if our opponent plays a land that we assume they have... what do they pitch this? Sorry, the Stock Up, sure. We assume they have the land for the Barragoyf here, so we just need to find a... Actually, no, this is lethal through the Barragoyf, right? Because this has got Menace and this flies. So this has to be a Snapcaster Plow turn if they have 3 mana. If they just play the Barragoyf, they're dead. Unless they've got some sort of free answer. Right, yeah, so it's the Snap Plow turn. I assume they go after the Moonshadow here. Because it's the largest creature. And we're going after the Channeler. That's interesting. So this risks them dying this turn if we had like the right stuff in hand. Alright, let's play this Dragon's Rage Channeler. Does it resolve? Let's play this Bloodstained Mire. Let's grow our little friend. Let's see if we can Raucous Theater for the win here. Put this into the graveyard. And then we get to clock our opponent with this Moonshadow. Alright, that is more like how we want this deck to go. That felt pretty good. Do I need to feed the Swarm just to deal with Barragoyf? Oh, Barragoyf, why do you exist? I think I prefer the Petal to the Bauble here. And then... do I want just one more... I think I have one more Barragoyf answer on the draw, because we're going to be a little bit slower on the draw. Now this hand is pretty fine. We have an answer to the scariest permanent in our opponent's deck in Barragoyf. We can grow this channeler pretty big. A Tamiyo. You got it. Let's go for a channeler here. Our opponent appears to be F6'd over there. Maybe. Alright, let's put this into the graveyard. Sure, Nethergoyf can go in as well. Let's lightning bolt this guy. I like lightning bolts. I keep him. Do I need to... So we have choices. We can use this to draw a card right now. Yeah, I think that's fine. Because considering what the creatures we're operating with are at the moment, we know that we're not doing Shredder or Moonshadow stuff. But we made a turn 1 Delirious Dragon's Rage Channeler. That feels pretty good to me. And then we can play a 4-5, and we've got another 4-5 in the wings. Now, obviously, when we play this, it makes itself smaller. A Thoughtseize, you say? Let's deploy this Arid Mesa first, actually. And then we will Thoughtseize them. Right, I'll take your only thing here. Let's crack this. We get Badlands. Here comes the big boy. And then if our opponent does draw into a Barragoyf, we've got that covered with the Molten Collapse. They have a Mystic Sanctuary, but they don't have that many islands yet, so they're going to have to wait a couple of turns to put this plow on top. I don't think we're Thoughtseizing this turn. Our opponent has one mystery card. It's a stock up. Alright, now this is a much better place to Thoughteize our opponent, because they're going to have a look at a bunch of cards. And then we get to choose one of them and get rid of it. That feels good to me. We're getting plowed in our upkeep. We are getting plowed in the upkeep. So we need another threat. Do I play this Super Shredder out that dies straight away to our opponent's Bowmasters? I don't think so. I will take the second stock up and leave you with just a couple of lands. So they can Mystic Sanctuary and put a stock up or a plow on top of their library if they wish. They're going for the stock up, sure. They could stock up into a Bowmaster. Seal of Fire. Do I play the Super Shredder out now, or do I play the Seal of Fire out first with the intention of making sure this survives a Bowmasters? If they're digging 5 cards, the chance of them finding a Bowmaster seems quite high. I think this is a Seal of Fire turn. It's annoying that we have to sort of slow our roll here, but it is what it is. Is your last card in hand a Force of Will there? Feels like it might be, because there was definite pause on this. It's just another time to grow our Nethergoyf as well. There is a stock up we knew about. Play a Barragoyf, we've got that covered. If they've got a Force of Will to go with it, then get wrecked me, I suppose. It is annoying. We could Thoughtseize, but then we take a hit from this, and then I think the game just spirals out of control if we get hit once by a Barragoyf. What a horribly designed Magic the Gathering card that is. Alright, do you have the Force of Will that you kind of telegraphed a little bit earlier? They did. Okay. So now the game is over. Unless, what do they have in their graveyard? Land, creature, instant, sorcery. So if we strip enough stuff, but then the Seal of Fire can't kill it. Yeah, I think this is just game over now. Okay, they got a Murktide Regent that I assume they're going to cast here. That will shrink their Barragoyf, though. Does that give us a window to kill this? This only deals 1 point of damage because it puts another type in the graveyard. Alright, they haven't adjusted it at all because we've got so many different types in our graveyard that we just fuel in the Barragoyf. A second Lightning Bolt. Like, I guess that's what we have to do. Can I afford to play the Shredder first? No. Okay. Lightning Bolt into Lightning Bolt. Yeah, our opponent's stock up was pretty excellent. It found them Barragoyf and either Force of Will or the blue card to go with it. Now stock up is a pretty powerful card. It's not exactly a shock here. Okay, we need Pyroblast, feed the cycle. What are they doing with this? Stock up again? Yep. Alright, our opponent is digging deeply. Yep, this is also going to grow the Murktide. I think you do this pre-combat just to grow the Murktide. Not that necessarily this damage is going to matter, but let's say I answer this Murktide. We could be on 1 less life, and that's a whole extra turn of Snapcaster Mage Beats. So I think you probably just want to get that in. And Nethergoyf. That doesn't do it, I'm afraid. And we just died to the Murktide. Well, we put up a good fight. I think our opponent had to get like quite good runners there. Like getting that Force of Will when they did was really, really clutch. Because if we answer this Barragoyf straight away, then we can deploy the Shredder and start blowing stuff up, and then we can probably finish them, but just getting hit once by Barragoyf is kind of the end of the game. Barragoyf does some pretty annoying things to the format in terms of like aggressive decks. Alright, on to the second round. Okay, I guess we can do some Moonshadow stuff. We can play out this Moonshadow and then just play out the second Moonshadow. I think that's worth doing here. Just get the aggro in before our opponent gets anything on the board. So we can attack for 5 on turn 2, or we can play the Super Shredder. If we find a fetch land, that's probably best. Alright, now this is the sort of land that I definitely want to be throwing Wastelands at. Mishra's Research Desk. Okay. I would like to get this Shredder in, but I think we just have to take our medicine here and make sure we're not getting Urza Saga'd out. We'll only attack for 5, but that's fine. Next turn we grow both of these, so we attack for 7 and make a Super Shredder. And then in turn after, we should be able to kill our opponent. Is this like a painter build? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from what I've seen. Here comes the Shredder. Right, we have lethal on board. Our opponent has 1 land in play. Yep, you spin that Mishra's Research Desk and grow my Shredder. The fact this triggers off of anything is pretty gross. I'm sorry, wrong zone. It's this zone we get to look at, isn't it? Goblin Engineer. All of our creatures have Menace, so Goblin Engineer isn't going to do anything unless they have a way of giving it haste and a 0 mana artifact. And then another piece of mana. Alright, we just goldfish our opponent pretty darn quick there. Molten Collapse. I think you look good. Removal spells probably look good here as well. Although our burn spells are removal spells, aren't they? Do I think they're going to play Leyline? I don't know. I don't think they're going to play Leyline. Honestly, this all looks pretty good. I don't know what we would cut here. Our deck seems very well suited to mess with what our opponent's up to. Like, I kind of want this Molten Collapse. Maybe we just take 1 Fireblast out. Maybe it's supposed to be one of the Baubles, but just setting up our guys so that they're harder to kill with Fury seems like a good place to be. Now, if they do have Leyline, things get a little bit sketchy. Unfortunately, we have the ugly Blood Crypt here, but it's fine. You got to do these things sometimes. No Leyline to start with. That's always good news. We've got an Ancient Tomb into a Painter's Servant. Sure. Are we dead on turn 2? It's possible. Alright, we've got this Badlands. Let's get this Moonshadow going. Let's Bauble our opponent. So if they've got another Soul Land and they've got the Grindstone combo, they can just kill us here. City Traitors. So they have the mana available. Do they have a Grindstone in hand? And we're just going to get goldfished on turn 2. If not, we get to Molten Collapse this. Potentially. Okay, they didn't play out the City of Traitors, which means they're probably trying to use Pyroblasts. What about Second Painter? That does change how I want to play this game, I think. Like, going after the Painters doesn't feel great here. Right, goodbye Moonshadow. It sees itself leave, but doesn't get to remove a counter because it's already gone. Let's play a Nethergoyf. And then let's get rid of your land. We've got the biggest thing on the board. Going to play a Goblin Engineer. We can nail it with a Seal of Fire whilst also deploying a Nethergoyf. 3 cards in hand. We know one of them is City of Traitors. A Lightning Bolt, you say? Let's play this. Let's pay 2 life. Am I just going to play a Super Shredder out here? I don't know if they're going to block, is the thing. So they had the Grindstone win earlier if they wanted it, but they didn't go for it. So does that mean I'm supposed to not play around it and go for playing this out? If we play this pre-combat, then when they go try and block, it's good for us. Alright. Let's get the Shredder out. I assume they're just going to take 3 damage from Nethergoyf. Unless they have a Pyroblast, in which case they might just shoot it. But just getting the Shredder in play just means that every time we remove one of their creatures, we're also pushing extra damage. And it just makes the game snowball so hard. Great Furnace. That is not the mana to play and crack a Grindstone. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. You got it. Wouldn't mind drawing a land here. A fetch land would be really good. Not a fetch land. I'll take a Lightning Bolt though. Let's Lightning Bolt this guy. What about this guy? And then we attack for half of your life total. Are you chump blocking here? They are not. So we probably only need to connect with one of these creatures because the Seal of Fire will grow the Super Shredder to being a 4-4 and then deals the last 2 damage, and this is already a 4-4. Alright, the aggro is aggroing. You don't see a lot of red painter anymore. The deck's kind of fallen by the wayside. This game will be over before this gets to do very much, I would imagine. So they're going to attack here and make a thing. This allows them to potentially Fury. But if they Fury, they kill the Shredder. But they leave us with the Nethergoyf still. So if we draw a land, we win. Alright, here is the Fury. Yeah, so if we draw a land, we Molten Collapse this, and then we Seal of Fire their face. We didn't draw it though. So what is the play? Do I think they block here? I guess we can see if they block or not. Although this is a trade, which isn't really what I want here. Alright, let's just destroy this. And then our opponent's dead to our Seal of Fire next turn. This also switches off any sort of pay life abilities. I doubt they have fetch lands, because it feels like they're mono red, but sometimes they're red black and have fetch lands and play 1 Badlands. But we've got Burn to go upstairs here. There's the Grindstone. I don't think they can kill us here. They've got 1 card in hand and we know it's City of Traitors, because we saw it a million years ago. I don't think they can afford to get in here. They need to play around us having removal. But our removal goes to your face. Let's get a Moonshadow in. And then for old time's sakes, let's kill our opponent with a Seal of Fire. The classic. Grow our Goyf to a 6/7. Keep all the kids happy. I'm telling you, Seal of Fire is the tech for this sort of deck. Alright, we got the GG in chat. Opponent is a fan of the channel, and that is a nice little victory there. So we're now on the board. Let's go to round number 3. Okay, we can't keep this hand, so we're going to mulligan it. Don't really like the Blood Crypt, but we are keeping this one. What goes away in this situation, I wonder? Probably the Fireblast. I like the redraw. I like having a bit more mana, so we can play around days or deploy different things. A Mox Opal, a Chrome Mox, we're just getting stormed out. Alright, you can play some Mindbreak traps if you want extra help in the storm matchup. Looks like that's what's happening here. Lion's Eye Diamond. Gamble, sure. So we're going to get a brand new hand. So we're going to discard this Echo of Eons via the Lion's Eye Diamond and flash it back. Our hand is now worse, which is kind of miraculous. I thought our hand was pretty bad before. Not bad, but just not great. It was fine. This hand obviously doesn't play Magic though. Our opponent's getting up to lethal storm count soon. They got 7. This is going to be 8. Hexing Squelcher. I don't want them to see our hand with like a Thoughtseize or anything. If they just have nothing going on, maybe we're okay. We're not going to draw this now because our opponent might wheel our hand again. So we're going to draw in our opponent's turn so that if we get another turn, then we get the card. We have the option of playing the Thoughtseize here. But I think we just have to hope that our opponent spun themselves into something that didn't win the game. An Urza Saga. Based on Urza Saga beatdown, we can handle that. Right, let's get a Moonshadow in. Let's play this Wasteland. Let's take out this Urza Saga. Grow the team. Attack with a 2/2. I assume they don't block here. They can't because of the Menace. And then we see they're drawing a Mox Opal. That's unlikely to get them where they need to go. They've already got one of those. It's not helping them out. So maybe next turn is a Thoughtseize turn. We might be able to double Thoughtseize. I would like some sort of mana. I think Super Shredder is going to be interesting here. If they're playing like a bunch of Lotus Petals and Lion's Eye Diamonds, the Super Shredder is going to grow massive. Now the problem is when they're doing that, they're normally winning the game. Playing out Gemstone Mine. They've got 1 card we know about in hand, and it's Mox Opal. If Mox Opal wasn't good enough to do anything last time, I doubt it is this time. Alright, let's Thoughtseize our opponent here. Echo, Echo, Mox Opal. We'll take this Mox Opal. Let's get stuck in for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana they have here. So the Mox Opal would have allowed them to Echo Eons next turn. We really don't want to deploy another Thoughtseize here. A Lion's Eye Diamond is a pretty good one for our opponent, because this means they get to Echo. Our hand will grow our Moonshadows a lot next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are both going to be 7/7s. We have lethal if our opponent doesn't kill us this turn. That's a big ask. Are we passing the turn here? They got him a little chip shot with the Hexing Squelcher. Is that just so they can get the damages in and kill us on a lower storm count? Burning Wish. What do you go and get here? 1, 2, 3. Beseech the Mirror. So they should be able to win if they get Beseech the Mirror at this point. Yeah. So storm count is 4. Beseech is 5. Beseech again is 6. Beseech again is 7. Beseech again is 8. And then Tendrils is 9. So this should be deterministic because they've got a bunch of stuff they can sacrifice here. So they're just going to Beseech a couple of times here, so we're already up to, what, 12 damage? So the next one's going to be 14 damage. So I should just bargain away this Mox Opal for a Beseech. And then this one goes against the Tendrils, and we're on 16, so that's lethal. Nicely done, opponent. Alright, we need our opponent to not draw that Lion's Eye Diamond. We only need one more turn. I think we can kill our opponent most of the time. Alright, not a great matchup for us. We did establish that right at the top. Let's have some Leyline in the Voids. The Molten Collapses can blow up stuff they play out, which is the thing they do like to do. I think we're just trimming on some red spells. Like, Fireblast is an interesting one, because if they wheel us into it and they're low in life total, maybe we just get them with it. Pyroblast for their blue spells also seem good here, so probably just cutting a bunch of like these red spells. And we'll have something that looks like this. Thoughtseize is a good start. I think I'm willing to Thoughtseize, Moonshadow. We've got things that work here, and we are on the play. I don't think our opponent plays a Leyline, even if they have them in this matchup. It just doesn't seem like where they want to be. They're not trying to mitigate our aggro plan. They're just trying to ignore it. We have to Thoughtseize on one because our opponent has kept a hand. That probably means that hand beats us. Beseech, Burning Wish, Chrome Mox. An interesting hand. What do we take here? The Wish is more castable for this next turn cycle, so I think I'm going to take the Wish. I don't care about this Bowmasters though. We can Moonshadow and then Wasteland. Or we can Thoughtseize and Wasteland, although that... We can Thoughtseize and Raucous Theater as another option. And then we can untap Moonshadow, Wasteland. So I think we want to get this Beseech the Mire out of their hand. So we'll see. Just a Gemstone Mine. Super Shredder. I think I want to start a clock moving here. Am I Wastelanding right now? Or is the plan to get this Raucous Theater going? I think we just need to play it safe and Wasteland stuff. Make sure that our Moonshadow is growing so we're not dying to Bowmasters here. Scale up our threat. Take our opponent off of pretty much any action. Dark Ritual probably does it for them here. It gets them into Beseech the Mire, which can do some things. Maybe they can put like a Song of Creation and then pass, and then they could just kill us with any spell next turn. Right. Something is happening. Are we just playing bits out to avoid them being discarded? They have a Lion's Eye Diamond, so we know the last two cards in their hand. Let's Thoughtseize. We're going to take this Beseech the Mire. You play that Bowmasters out, we take the last card of the Beseech. Where are you pinging? To my face, presumably? I'm going to put in one on the Moonshadow. This way, if we grow it and we attack, they can trade their board for it. Oh, sorry, they imprinted the Beseech, didn't they? So they just have one mystery card. Right, Raucous Theater, it's your time to shine. I don't really want this, I can go on the bottom. Or in the graveyard, just grow the Moonshadow. I'm not going to trade this for two Bowmasters. If they top deck Echo of Eons and get us, then sure, you got me. Another Spire... No, that's the Spire of Industry we already saw, wasn't it? So they have a mystery card in their hand. If it was an Echo, they would have fired it off, so it is Thoughtseizable, would be my guess. What are we going to draw? How many of these things can we deploy? A Nethergoyf. We could play the Shredder and try and scale it up. I think the actual play here is Nethergoyf and Thoughtseize. Check the coast is clear for this attack. If they've got a Bowmaster, it could be a bit awkward to attack with the Moonshadow. Right, goodbye Dark Ritual. In through the Moonshadow. 2 mana is so expensive for what our deck's trying to do with this Shredder. Like, it does feel very good when it gets to sit and play. But quite often we're just playing our 1-drops instead. But also having a 2-drop threat that can get through Chalice is nice. Let's get Shredding. This is very bad in the face of Bowmasters. Although if they're trying to Bowmasters, maybe they want to try and Bowmasters our Moonshadow, so this will end up growing. So if they ping this down before they try and block, then our Moonshadow grows. Right, big chunk for 6. A Mox Opal. Is that the mana they needed to cast a Beseech here? That's probably terrible news for us if that's what they have got. They could Echo here. I don't know if this is deterministic. It might be deterministic if they Beseech, sacrificing this Mox Opal, crack the LED in response. That's Storm 1, Storm 2, Storm 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, Song of Creation. So next turn is probably going to be pretty good is what you're telling me, opponent. Understood. Now they could just brick and hit a land. These things kind of all suck, which is a shame. I'll play out this Moonshadow just in case our opponent does anything we have to be... Like, if anything dies here, then the Moonshadows grow. I'm happy to block and trade this for a Bowmaster and grow our entire team. It does take life to get mana out of the Spire of Industry if they want coloured mana, so maybe... Okay, we're not going to get anything there. It's going to grow the Super Shredder. And then we'll just play out our last card. And we have lethal. Do you draw a spell, opponent, or did you draw a land? Alright, looks like they drew a spell. They drew a pretty good one as well. I guess we're just F6ing for a little bit. So this goes and puts an Echo straight in the bin. The chances of our opponent fizzling here are basically 0. Because every spell they cast draws them additional 2 cards. And they also have a full draw 7 to make sure they've got stuff to start sending towards us. I don't think our opponent can lose from this position. Well, our Super Shredder is probably going to be a massive by the end of this turn. But it's not going to do us any good. Echo, here we go. This is going to shoot us for 7. So I just need to cast one more Echo and then we die. Oh, we need to stop yielding now. If our opponent pays a life for this Spire of Industry, we can kill them with this Fireblast. We have a plan. I don't know if they're going to see Fireblast coming either. Tap your Spire of Industry for 1 damage, please. They probably don't need to. But I don't think Fireblast is going to be on their radar as a thing we have yet. But they don't have any, like... I guess they have black mana from this, but they don't have any red mana. So if they want to, like, Burning Wish or something, they probably have to tap this Spire of Industry, which gives us the window we need to Fireblast them right in their face. And Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. Pinging us again. If we'd have actually paid to keep the Blood Crypt untapped, we could have killed our opponent here. Maybe that was just a mistake on my part. I should have thought about them. What if they wheel us? Alright, so it was Mox Opal. So they have other mana of a different colour here. Alright, they paid a life here. They've got a gamble going. Can I Fireblast you right in the heart? No Verda Summons are going to stop this one. Alright, we did manage to get that game with the Fireblast. Whew. Yeah, if we'd have just had the Blood Crypt on tap, we definitely would have won it. So that's something to think about. Don't want to do anything differently here. I don't think so. Just go in. Leyline of the Void is definitely a banger here. I will keep this. This just stops them doing Echo of Eons and Gaia's Will lines, which are their 2 easiest ways of getting there. Now they can do Beseech Chains, and that's a perfectly valid way that they can win the game against us. But I'm going to keep the card that stops us dying on turn 1. And I didn't see this in game 2, so they might not have expected us to have it. Chrome Mox. We're just playing out a bunch of stuff and killing me anyway. We're going to assemble a lot of power. If their plan is Urza Saga beatdown, I think we can beat that. So Burning Wish is something that could have got an answer to a Leyline. It's interesting they put that under the Chrome Mox. I don't know if they have Boomerang Basics in their deck post-board against us. Alright, we get a turn. That's always a good sign. Right, let's go and get Badlands. Let's deploy a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Let's Surveil once. Leyline can go into the bin. Let's cast a second Dragon's Rage Channeler. Let's play this Mishra's Bauble. Wooded Foothills. No, we don't need that for now. Creature can go in the graveyard. Let's do some more surveilling. No, just keep putting loads of stuff in the bin. Let's cast this guy. Let's draw an extra card. We shouldn't have drawn the card here. We are playing around. Okay, they have a Boomerang Basics. That's kind of worrying. We've assembled, what? 10 power on turn 1 with a Leyline of the Void as well. A Moonshadow. Not the most exciting there. I think we're supposed to wait on that Bauble. Although it maybe makes our opponent think we have Mindbreak Trap if we crack it then. We're not that likely to get wheeled. They have to Boomerang Basics. Well, if they Boomerang Basics this and then just LED Echo, then we're in trouble. But they did put the Burning Wish underneath the Chrome Mox, so they might have just committed to this Urza Saga plan on turn 1 instead of this getting them an Echo that they could have used. And now maybe they regret that because they have the Boomerang Basics in hand. We shall see. Boomerang Basics on our Leyline in the Void. 2 cards in hand. Is it Echo LED? No. It's a pass. They get an LED off of this next turn if they want it. Do we hold up for burn spells? Interesting. we can't increase the size of our clock, so we're just going to crack in for 10 here. We only have one lightning bolt in our deck, so I think we cast this Moonshadow. And then next turn, we have this held up. This can be a Surveil land, or it can be a red source for a lightning bolt that we might draw, or a Pyroblast. Maybe we didn't need to pay out the Moonshadow, and that gives us options to cast both. We already have lethal damage, but if they wheel, we lose the amount of power we have in play because our creatures will shrink. So I think getting the Moonshadow makes some amount of sense still. I suspect if they get to start wheeling, we're just in trouble. But they can always just wheel into a 7-card hand that doesn't do anything. Alright, they're floating mana off of the Saga rather than trying to make a construct. I'd rather just made a ban. Alright, here is the LED that we expected to see. Alright, they have Beseeched Mirror mana. They can just use it as Diabolic Tutor to then spin the wheel. Burning Wish. Oh, they're cracking this. So they've got 6 mana in their pool from this. So doing a Beseech now. So this is a Gaia's Will line, which I believe is deterministic. Storm Counter is going to be 4 after Gaia's Will comes back. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then they can just cast like a Gamble. Do they have the mana for it though? Is this one shy? Or have I done my maths horribly? Chromox. Presumably there's no imprint here, because they don't have any cards in hand. There is the Urza Saga. Let's put us to 1. This could just be like a little Tendrils to keep themselves alive. Turns off our Scalding Tarn. But we just have lethal damage. 8, 9. Yeah, they're 1 shy, right? Because they can't cast these spells. They can only cast the Beseech. Oh, I guess they can Beseech into Beseech, right? That's their solution to this one. They Beseech, and then they sacrifice this, and then they Beseech, sacrificing the LED, and that gets them to Tendrils. Yeah, okay, our opponent should have it here. Took me a minute to work it out. Our opponent's going slowly, so maybe they are trying to work it out as well. I think they should be able to just double Beseech and be fine here. Okay, they're doing it a different way. They're Boomerang Basicsing their own land here. That works as well. So then they play this out, and then they can just Beseech. They could have just double Beseeched. Would have also been fine. But this way is clean. And they go and Tendrils us. GG's opponent, that was a very close one. We assembled 10 power on turn 1. Like, I felt we were doing real good stuff. We needed our opponent to not happen to have the Beseech there, really. Oh well. On to round number 4. Okay, round number 4. We've got Moonshadow, and hopefully we can pump it. I'll keep this one. We can also Thoughtseize if that's what we need to do on turn 1. Maybe we end up in a weird Super Shredder game. Maybe we need to Seal of Fire on turn 1. Are we just Thoughtseizing here? So I don't really want to get slapped up by an Orcish Bowmaster if I just play this Moonshadow out. Whereas next time we can play it with the Seal of Fire. Fail push Orcish Bowmasters. Okay, we take the Orcish Bowmasters here. We don't want them to get a free lunch out of us. If they spend a Fatal Push on our Super Shredder, that's probably fine for us as well. So maybe that's what we're doing next turn. We are exposed to Wasteland here is the issue. And they do have 2 of them. But our deck that needs to cast all these black spells and Fireblast doesn't really have any choice but to play into Wasteland. There's an argument that we don't take the Orcish Bowmasters to try and bait them into not playing their Wasteland. Let's play this, pay some life. What would I like to play out here? Is it the Moonshadow or is it the Nethergoyf? Either one is probably getting killed. I guess we just play out as Nethergoyf first. Because this way, if they have an Orcish Bowmasters that they've drawn, they can't just pick off our Moonshadow for free. But they should Fatal Push us, untap, Wasteland us, and put us in the dirt. A Thoughtseize. So they're just going to strip away our land. They probably take the Moonshadow here. Yep, they did indeed take the Moonshadow, then they Wasteland us, and then that cuts us off the spells for a little bit. At least they've got this Snuff out, not doing anything in their hand. Alright, we don't get to play anything because we lost both of our lands here. Sometimes that's going to happen, unfortunately. But our opponent doesn't seem to be doing anything themselves, so maybe we got the time to get back in here. I'll put this Wasteland and I'll hold this up. We got 2 drops we want to play. We have 1 drops around Days we want to play. I think we just hold up this Wasteland, try and draw a mana source, maybe dump the Super Shredder into play. Right, so now they're going to be getting in. We don't want to see a Kaito come down here, because that'll be able to lock down our creatures. Okay, they didn't have Kaito. A Nethergoyf. Not a useful one there, I'm afraid. We have a very respectable amount of mana considering the cards we're trying to cast with our deck. I've basically got like classic Rug Delver mana, but with 4 extra Lotus Petals, which is quite a lot to be honest. A Nethergoyf. Alright. Alright, I think it's just going to be too late for us now. This is 4, 5, 6, and then we're dead on the next crackback. If we get a land, we can deploy our Nethergoyf, which can hopefully block their Nethergoyf, but at present, not the case. This is a Murktide. You're going to show me another card in your deck? Sure. We're definitely dead there. Alright, that was unfortunate for us, really. We just got double wastelanded out of the game. That can happen to any deck, though. Okay, we want the Molten Collapse. Probably want some amount of Pyroblast action. Feed the Cycle looks good here as well. I don't think we want any of our other tools. Like Leyline shuts off their Murktide and their Nethergoyf, but it's the Barragoyf that we actually care about. So getting a couple of removal spells in here. And these Pyroblasts. So 4 things to find. I think we can trim on a Fireblast and a Bauble. And then it's probably like a Seal goes. Maybe 1 Bolt. Something like that. Just trim around the edges and try and get some stuff to deal with the big haymakers they have. Because they'll keep a hand based entirely on just putting a Barragoyf into play. Sure. I hope you like Nethergoyf's opponent. Because that's all we've got. Nethergoyf's all the way down. Let's cast a Nethergoyf. Let's Lotus Petal. What about second Nethergoyf? I'm going to Mishra's Bauble once, but I'm not going to Mishra's Bauble the second time. We're going to hold this for the purposes of like Delirium and pinging some stuff down. Right, Wasteland, that's fine. We're playing basics or non-basics over their opponent. A basic. So we're not Wastelanding this turn, but we could Surveil land and try and hit off of the Surveil to grow these. Let's see if we can grow our little friend. Or friends, I should say. Try and grow channel that grows our guys. Attacking for 6 on turn 2. Pretty solid. We've got Wastelands to hopefully keep our opponent off Barragoyf, but if they go and fetch a basic, then we're not going to really be able to interact with that very much. We're kind of flooding this turn, whereas we did the exact opposite last game. So this Misty Rainforest can't get a non-basic land. Sorry, can't get a basic land that we... that if they want to... Yeah, this can't get a basic land, right? Because they probably only have the 1 island. And we just slam in with our friends here. If I get a Surveil land, I will snap off this Wasteland. Just trying to keep Barragoyf out of play. If it does come into play, we've at least got a shot at killing it with a Molten Collapse. This would also be another card type to give us lethal. We could try and destroy our own Lotus Petal just to get lethal here. If that's the situation we're in next turn. Not sure that's the situation I want to be in. Obviously, if they crack this fetch, they're going to be lethal to what's on board. But if they didn't crack the fetch for some reason, we could still maybe find it. Alright, I'm going to just hit this now so they can't get Barragoyf next turn. Sure, fail pushing my guy. That's fine. We've still got a body in play that can attack you. We can't resurrect this Nethergoyf yet. Plenty of artifacts. A couple of lands, but only one other type. A Ponder. That's not really where you want to be when your opponent's trying to charge you down with a creature. They shuffled off that Ponder as well. Not a sign of strength. Oh, I didn't mean to play that one out. Oh well. I don't think it matters here. I don't think getting in 1 extra point of damage by Molten Collapsing my own thing makes a lot of sense here. So they need to put up a blocker or kill our guy. Brainstorm. So they're looking for Fatal Push or Tamiyo here. We can interact with the Tamiyo using our Molten Collapse. Fetch land puts them dead to Seal of Fire or Lightning Bolt. Obviously they're dead to Lightning Bolt anyway, but Seal of Fire is lethal there. A Nethergoyf of their very own. Okay. Super Shredder. Let's get the Super Shredder out first. That way when we go to kill this, we at least are growing our other body if something goes wrong later on. Let's crack this. Yield to the Super Shredder ability. Go and grab ourselves another Badlands. And we can try and kill their creature around a daze here. They might have a Force of Will. I haven't really tested them with that for a while. Okay, here's the Force of Will coming in. The thing is, this makes our Nethergoyf bigger than theirs. So this attack is very good. Because they just have to chump block with their Nethergoyf. And our opponent's on 1 life, so fetch lands are off, so maybe casting a Barrowgoyf is difficult. A Barrowgoyf doesn't win them the game anyway because Super Shredder's got Menace. So we are just doing the aggro thing here. Alright. Anything differently? Do I want these sorts of things over some of the other things? I don't think so. Alright, we'll just go back in again. Don't really like the Raucous Theater here. But I think it's still worth keeping based on a bunch of things we have. If we find another fetch land off the top, or even a non-fetch land that we can tap for red or black mana, we're going to be in good state, I think. Thoughtseize. Alright, we have 2 kind of interchangeable threats. We have 2 very different answers, and we have like a finisher here. So they're not going to go after Fireblast here. It's probably just one of the threats. Manage their life total as best they can. They're on the play, which is huge, because it means that the Orcust Bowmaster of the world can be a little bit scarier. Am I playing around Daze? Given the amount of threats we have, I think we are playing around Daze. We kind of need this Dragon's Rage Channeler to do its thing. We can save this from a Bowmaster. It's a little bit ugly, but it does work, because we can put an instant and an artifact into our graveyard at any time. The reason we're playing Pyroblast over Red Blast is because you can target any spell or permanent with Pyroblast. It just destroys it or counters it if it's blue, which means we can cast this to fuel our Delirium, get our Dragon's Rage Channeler triggers and all that. I don't think we're using a Pyroblast on a Ponder. I believe in the power of our Raucous Theater to get us where we need to go. Like, I would hit a Tamiyo, I would hit a Murktide, Kaito, Baleful Strix, sort of a selection of cards they might have. A Clutch Brainstorm at a certain time might be something I want to Pyroblast as well. A Wasteland. You got it. Got the Raucous Theater. A Lightning Bolt. I do like a Lightning Bolt. Let's put it into the graveyard now. How useful is that? I think we are just putting it into the graveyard because we kind of need to get more lands going. We're only hitting for 1 here, which is clearly not enough. If they're Bowmasters, we do have to do the Pyroblast play. Maybe we should have Pyroblast that Ponder. They're getting close to Murktide Regent. Okay, there's another Wasteland. It's just a double Wasteland again with our sort of very low to the ground aggressive deck. Let's try and counter this. Tamiyo, this also gives us a Surveil. Right, you can Daze. We still get the Surveil though. Super Shredder. You are not a land. But we've got a 3-3. The problem is at the moment, like blue-black tempo, it's sort of big tempo cards at the moment in Tamiyo and Barrowgoyf are just a little bit better than any other sort of fair deck can muster. So it can be really awkward trying to play into them. Alright, we've got a Undercity Sewers here. This is giving us a shot back into this game. If we can find another thing, like another land that we can use to get our Molten Collapse going, we can blow up the Clue and the Tamiyo. We did not get to do that, unfortunately. I will still Thoughtseize my opponent. If they've got a 3rd Wasteland, then that's just the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? Right, Thoughtseize you. Let's get our Surveil in. Sure, I'll take a Blood Crypt. Not the land I want, but I'll take it. I guess we take this Murktide Regent. Okay, that was a timely Thoughtseize. Now, we might have been able to defeat that anyway using the Molten Collapse. But still, there's an Underground Sea. What are you doing? Are we just cracking a Clue and moving on with our life? Or did you hit another banger? Did you just get another Murktide? Feed the Cycle. Goodbye, Dragon's Rage Channeler. If you're not getting this Blood Crypt, I'm going to play this, pay 2 life. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. We get rid of the Tamiyo. That Tamiyo is currently worth 1 card to them, but as soon as they start cracking these, the value of it goes up. Cracking a Clue, so it's already a 2-for-1, probably going to end up being a 3-for-1. I have been tracking the Tamiyo count to see how good Tamiyo is. Just how many cards is it worth every game. Alright, so we've got Thoughtseize out now. I just think it's an interesting piece of data to look at. We're never using second Fireblast anyway, so we've got 2 damage out of that Fireblast that we might not have got that much damage out of. Not the Lightning Bolt I was hoping for. I'll play this Arid Mesa out and pass. Right. That Tamiyo was officially worth 3 cards. They can't play... Okay, they can play a Nethergoyf, but they can't play anything like a Barrowgoyf on the mana they had there. Lightning Bolt would be great. And Mishra's Bauble will have to do here, I guess. We're going to target ourselves so that we can use our fetch land to change the card if we don't want it. Our Nethergoyf is going to be massive. Are we just trying to find a lightning bolt, though, is the question. No, I think we just take this Nethergoyf. It's going to be bigger than theirs. Our Nethergoyf should always be bigger than our opponents because we have a deck built around making our Nethergoyfs like 6 power creatures quite often. So you hit me for 4. Hopefully you don't have anything else going on. But if it wasn't for that Tamiyo, if that Tamiyo was just like any other threat, then they'd just be stuck with this Toxic Deluge in hand instead of having 2 other cards to go with it. Alright, let's get a Super Shredder in. Let's crack this. See if we can go and grow this Super Shredder whilst also making another Nethergoyf. We can grow this Super Shredder at will by using our Fireblast. A daze. You got it. We are unable to pay to prevent that. However, we have lethal on board. If our opponent Toxic Deluges, they die. Undercity Sewers. A Tamiyo. Sure. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. They can't attack because of our Menace here. They know we have this Fireblast. They can have a Daze, but they can't have anything else too scary here. So I guess we go black to play this Moonshadow first. Just do our due diligence here. And then we go Fireblast. If we hit the Tamiyo, we can kill our opponent this turn. They have 1 card in their hand. So Super Shredder's going to grow. This isn't quite lethal, but it's pretty darn close. And our opponent doesn't have a Tamiyo. Don't fail push me. Alright, they didn't fail push me. A Barragoyf here it still plays. Because, okay, so they're going to need a land they can crack and a Barragoyf. Or, like, a removal spell isn't good enough. They could play a second Nethergoyf and a Fatal Push. That's good enough. They shuffled off their Ponder. Have we done enough? Yay! We got the match. We beat the best deck in the format. Yeah, our deck is very good at being aggressive. And our Fireblast was pretty good there. Like, we could have Fireblasted their face, attack with a 6/6, force them to put both things, kill one of their guys. That would be fine as well. But I think putting our opponent to 1 guaranteed that turn to shut off fetches is kind of huge. Alright, we are, what, 2-2? Not a bad little first outing. And the 2 we lost were 1-2s. So they weren't like us getting annihilated or anything. Alright, on to the final round. Let's see if we can get the positive record. Okay, we got lots of threats. We have been losing a lot of the die rolls, which isn't really where we want to be with our deck. Thundering Falls like this makes me think our opponent's playing Sneak and Show, which is definitely one of the matchups that I'm less happy about. I think we can definitely fix that matchup with some different tools, though. It does mean that we're not getting Wastelanded if I've correctly read what our opponent is. I think we want the Moonshadow in, and then we can just start casting more Moonshadows. Drawing a fetch land off the top is excellent here. Just allows us to go Moonshadow plus Channeler or Goyf. A Wasteland. Okay, I have misread what our opponent was doing. They are growing our Moonshadow. Are they lightning bolting it as well? They are indeed. So we don't have any permanents again. That doesn't seem like a place I want to be. An Urza's Bauble. At least if they're doing this, they're like a tempo deck and not some sort of combo deck. I think we're way better into tempo than combo. They've got Force of Will over there. The cards they've shown us make me think they're playing some sort of blue-red, Delver, Corey Steelcutter style list. Possibly the build with the Otters. That's been quite popular lately. No response to Channeler. Well, well, well. Would you look at that? Another Wasteland. I guess we're going to clean up. So if you wanted to, you could play 2 more lands in this deck if you wanted to put 1 of each basic in. But I don't think that's actually a great idea most of the time. Like, sure, sometimes we're getting punished by these Wasteland starts. But sometimes we just play enough power that even if they Wasteland us, it's going to go badly for them. I'm not even sure if they Wasteland there if they don't have the Bolt. We got, what, 3 types in our graveyard as well, so we're pretty close to Delirium for our own Channeler. Is it land? It's going to be a Wasteland, isn't it? Alright, we failed again to draw a land. I guess they're probably just binning off the Shredder. We're not going to have time to scale it up. Alright, they're just lightning bolting to fix their draws and their upkeep. Probably not great news for us. The fetching there suggests to me that our opponent doesn't have any cantrips, because you would probably want to hold that for a cantrip rather than just fetching to thin your deck slightly. Because we... they pondered, they milled this over. Okay, maybe they actually knew the top card, right? Because they didn't shuffle off that ponder. No, okay, ignore me. Just lost track of where they put those cards on that ponder. Alright, that's the Murktide region. We're going to scoop this one up, I think. And we're just going to do the same sideboarding we were doing for all of these tempo decks. And it seems to be working out for us, to be honest. So 1 times Molten Collapse, 2 times Pyroblast, 1 times Feed the Cycle, trim 1 Fireblast, which maybe we should only have 2 of in the deck anyway. We get rid of 1 Urza's Bauble and 1 Lightning Bolt. Or Seal of Fire, probably Seal of Fire because it doesn't kill Channeler. And that's probably all we need to do. Like, you can play the Squelchers here. I just don't think it's necessary. Like, these cost... Like, 2 mana is so much for our deck. We're really low to the ground. Just come out blazing with a nice hand, shall we? This hand is kind of slow and not very exciting. Super Shredder comes in, maybe grows twice in 1 turn, and then is still in range. But if we find any other 0 drops, it can work. I think we can just mulligan to something with a 1 drop. Okay. This seems fine to me. We could. We haven't really tried like ramping out a Super Shredder on turn 1 very much. Then we keep this. And what are we doing? We're putting back the Badlands here. Am I ramping out a Super Shredder or not? Or we could just Thoughtseize on 1 and then turn to Moonshadow and some other stuff. Bit of a tough call, to be honest. So we can Moonshadow and Thoughtseize, but a 2-2 isn't going to get out of range anyway. Okay, we're going to try and ramp out this Super Shredder and see what it feels like. I don't think this is necessarily the correct play, but I would like to test this card. And I think you lovely people at home would also like to see how this does. Because getting this in before a daze happens feels like a good place to be. Now, if they Force of Will this, they do get a nice 1-for-1, effectively 2-for-2 trade. So 2 1-for-1s. If they spend their first turn destroying this, that's okay. Because our plan is to Moonshadow and have that as our scaling threat. But this just rewards us for playing the game. Just go for a Moonshadow. This way, if they kill the Super Shredder while the Moonshadow's in play, the Moonshadow grows. Right, Shredder has grown a little bit here. Get Badlands. Now, we might be getting hit by Price of Progress at some point, but we are trying to be the aggro here. I'm not a giant lover of Thoughtseize in this matchup. Maybe we could cut some of the Thoughtseize, but I think there are some scary cards our opponent has access to. These are probably not it, though. Do we think we just beat this Corey Steel Cutter? So next time they go Cutter, Bauble, attack. But then we Wasteland them and attack for like 1 million. Maybe just take the Borrower here. Because everything that they sacrifice is going to grow our Super Shredder. So we just take the removal and just turn our guys sideways. So this is going to grow the Shredder. The Bauble will grow the Shredder. A Wasteland will grow the Shredder. Our Wasteland grows it by 2, which is pretty wild. So if they don't remove the Shredder this turn, it's going to be enormous. And I think we can outpace what the Corey Steel Cutter does, especially if we're Wastelanding our opponent off of resources. There's a Wasteland. There's a Corey Steel Cutter as expected. That Wasteland is super dicey to use. Right, here is the Mishra's Bauble, because if they Wasteland us, we still grow our Shredder by 2. Alright, you've got a Monk. Enjoy your Monk. So probably don't crack the Bauble until our turn, so we don't get the power on attacks. I'll take 2. You're going to be taking way more next turn, opponent. Let's get rid of Thundering Falls. Getting shredded over here. We could take one of our opponent's Brainstorms just to slow them down. Is that worth 2 life to us? It might be. I think I'm willing to give it a go. Take one of these Brainstorms. We crack him for 8 here. Our opponent's dead on the next turn. Well, we need 1 more point of damage. But I don't think it's going to be that difficult to muster up 1 point of damage given our deck. Alright, so they've just given us the extra point of damage using this Bauble. They need an answer. And it needs to be like a Borrower because all their red removal is going to skimp over this, right? They've got instant creature land artifacts. So they could get it going via an Unholy Heat, but they've played the Underground Sea. So they can make some monks and attack, but they probably need to hold them back for blocks because they are dead on board. Sure, you can have a monk. I don't think they can kill us here. That would be wild. Not with just 1 Steel Cutter. So this is 5 damage. If they play like another Bauble, it's still only 7 damage, and then they're dead on the crackback. Look how big Shredder's getting. He is so shredded right now. Alright. Super Shredder ramped out. Felt pretty good. Okay. Maybe, do we want these Thoughtseizes? They end up being pretty good at clutch times, but on the draw, it might just be better to have more like stuff that deals with them. So like having our Seal of Fire, for example. Maybe we want our own Bauble. Do I want this Fireblast? I don't think I do. Maybe we want Squelchers. Is that wild? They trade with stuff and make us things uncounterable. We'll try it. We haven't brought the Squelchers in yet. We'll try this instead of the Thoughtseizes. We've still got lots of answers to their big guys. And their big guys don't have lifelink, which is the main thing. Yeah. We can grow Moonshadow. And get Squelch in as well. There is a little guy. There is a Mishra's Bauble. I think we are going to play out the Seal of Fire. I don't know if we even use it though. Because we can use it all next turn to grow the Moonshadow. And that will get it out of range of lightning bolts. Which is very much our objective here. It's probably worth just firing this off and killing the Dragon's Rage Channeler, to be honest. I definitely thought about holding it. But if we just give our opponent another turn of some free surveils and stuff, just try and grow a Moonshadow, that can be a little bit awkward. A Wasteland. Not a fan. We're just going to get Wasteland out of this game again. Maybe it's our turn to waste our opponent and hope for the best. A Lotus Petal would be a pretty interesting draw. I would just take a land, though, if we find one. Alright. I think we have to play out this Mishra's Bauble now to look for a land. Have you got a land on top of your library, opponent? A Force of Will. Alright, let's just try and keep you at bay. Like, we play really well off of 1 mana because all of our threats are 1 mana apart from these two guys that happen to be in our hand and the Shredders. Alright, a Moonshadow. Polluted Delta. And a Ponder. Okay, so we're still not under any pressure, so we've got some time. They're baubling us. Is it a land? Please let it be a land. It is a land. Am I playing out? I think it has to be the Moonshadow here. We're getting dazed? We're not getting dazed. Okay. We're trying to dodge Murktide Regent until we get a second land. Orcish Bowmasters. Yep. This is one of the reasons why I would have wanted to play the Seal of Fire. I was curious what the black in our opponent's deck was for. And now we know. There's a Bauble. If we hit a land, we just play out the Squelcher, probably. It blocks their guys quite effectively. Alternatively, we could just not draw a land. Do I want to play out this Moonshadow? I think we actually play out the Seal of Fire this time. I'm not really interested in burning this on either of their creatures. Oh wow, they want to daze the Seal of Fire. Seal of Fire too strong. Right, they ship in for a little bit of damages. But don't have any follow-ups. That's something at least. Deck, please. I have a family. Let me draw lands. Nothing at our end step, so no extra Bowmaster. That is a relief. Are they splashing black just to play Barragoyf? Is it Barragoyf and Bowmasters? Right, we've got a Steel Cutter coming in. Molten Collapse not great against the old Steel Cutter, unfortunately. Lining bot on our guy. I think our window to win this game has disappeared. So now we're getting cracked for 4. It's going to take some work to come back from this. But if our opponent runs dry to the point where they don't get to do their Steel Cutter stuff anymore, maybe we're okay. We're just dead to a Wasteland here. Interesting they're playing the land out instead of holding it for brainstorm purposes. I wonder what that tells us about their hand. Maybe they're building up to a naturally cast Force of Will. We did see one earlier, right? Yes. Okay, let's go and get our Hexing Squelcher in. It's a guy. I don't think we can afford to Fireblast one of their creatures here. Do we take 3 this turn? Possibly more. Right, so now Hardcast Force of Will is up. If they start casting spells, they can't do that. But obviously we have a thing that makes Force of Will not a great spell right now. A Hydroblast on our poor little defenseless Squelcher. Very rude. They're pretty happy to play the life here. But we know the last card in their hand is a Force. So we know we're only getting hit for 5. So we're not dead yet. We are in lightning bolt range though. Pyroblast, not the one here, is it? Yeah, we just didn't hit the lands we needed for this game. I think if we could deploy these spells, we easily win this game. Obviously because we have a bunch of spells instead of land. But let's say like a couple of these, like this Molten Collapse was a land, for example. I think we easily win this game. A Ponder, not a fan of that one for us. So we have to chump block this monk. If they find any spell they can cast, we're dead. Well, we're not dead. We're in a horrible position where we have to sacrifice both of our lands to not be dead. Which kind of feels like being dead, doesn't it? They didn't shuffle the Ponder, so they've got another spell here. Lightning Bolt to my Dome. No, you don't, opponent. I'm going to shoot myself instead. I get to kill me, not you. Haha. Alright, that was an unfortunate one. Genuinely felt like that last matchup was actually fine for us. We just happened to get a bit mana screwed. Now, you could argue that we could fix that, or the amount of times we get mana screwed in our deck, by altering it. However, when we did lose like one game, I think, because we got flooded. So, a little bit awkward. So, a 2-3, not a great record, but the ones we lost were very narrow losses, right? It was just 1-2 all the way down. So this, if things go slightly better for us a couple of times, we might end up with even a trophy here. So I think the deck proof of concept is pretty good, but let's talk about it. So the first thing that all you lovely people want to hear about is my thoughts on Shredder, right? I thought this card was fine in this deck. I think it's going to be better in other decks, but here we are so heavily indexed on our early drops that trying to like grow and churn through this Shredder is kind of a bit of a big ask. And I don't necessarily think that's where we need to be. But I do think Shredder, like when we just had a Shredder in play and we're just playing the game, it was just growing constantly and just being really powerful by existing in a game of Magic the Gathering and just being huge. So there's definitely some chops to this one. But if your deck is trying to just play out a bunch of like one-drop guys and turn them sideways, you're going to be using a lot of your things that would fuel your Super Shredder on your first turn rather than your second turn. I guess you could, like, obviously the curve of going turn 1 Moonshadow, turn 2 Shredder, and then pop both of these or whatever is kind of cool. And, like, I do like the Seal of Fire into Super Shredder line. That seems good. Maybe we need less Shredders. We can probably cut a Shredder. Maybe we just add another land to stop us getting mana screwed as much. Maybe we don't need the full 3 Fireblast here. Maybe, because we would cut one quite often, so maybe we could squeeze out another thing here. I do like the Seal of Fire here, though. I think if we don't get mana screwed, we definitely win that last round. The combo matchup we lost was like a Storm combo. And two of the main sorts of combos at the moment, where you basically got sort of 3 main stripes of combos that are seeing a lot of play. You've got the graveyard-based combos, which Leyline of the Void hits. And then you've got your Show and Tells, and you've got your Storm decks. Now, the Leyline of the Void does some work against Storm. Does nothing against Show and Tell. Obviously very good against Oops. The Pyroblast doesn't do anything against Oops, but it's very good into Show and Tells. It's pretty good into Echo of Eons as well. So this is some extra juice we can have to squeeze in that matchup. So I think we want more Pyroblasts. I'm not really sure we even want to be a Squelcher deck. I think we probably just maybe want a little bit more mana in here. Maybe that's just a small sample size. Like the mana should be fine because we've got 14 coloured sources, which is the classic for like Rug Delver decks. Now those decks had more cantrips than we have. But instead of having those cantrips, we've got a bunch of Lotus Petals. And once we get our threats out, then it's all good. So I think we're probably okay and just hit the bad side of variance. But you could cushion that a little bit by adding in like one more land if you wanted to by cutting a Super Shredder. What land you add in becomes a little bit tricky. You could just get one basic. But what do you get? Do you get a swamp? Or do you get a mountain? Because we need mountains for our Fireblasts. So kind of a tough one there. But honestly, I think the proof of concept worked quite well here. Our deck is very aggressive and powerful. Now, is it better to play one of these strategies if we're in green-black instead? Because what green-black gives you is Sylvan Safekeeper, which protects your threats when you're trying to build up a big threat. If it just gets easily answered, kind of sucks. But it allows you to protect the threat while also growing the threats because you're sacrificing lands. And you can play more lands in a build like that without feeling so bad because you're not trying to run mountains for your Fireblast. So you can play like some actual basics in there and play a little bit more normal Magic and have some extra lands to pitch because you know that those lands are actually going to be viable to do stuff with later on because you get to sack them to the Safekeeper. So that's definitely something I'm considering trying out at some point, and I'm sure it'll end up on the channel. I think Super Shredder is pretty solid. I think it's going to be better in a slightly more mid-rangey deck where they sort of play this, protect it with a Daze, and then just by playing the game, it's really good. Because if you have this in play and you Daze, it grows, which is pretty gross. And then it's going to grow off of all the fetch lands and the wastelands. So you can probably just fit this into like the newer sort of blue-black tempo list that I've seen popping up that are running Moonshadow. You just put this in as well, and then just by playing the game, you're going to have a scaling threat. Now, the problem with scaling threats is they need to be in play for a few turns to scale. Whereas threats like Murktide Regent and Nethergoyf and BR, they come down huge. You don't need to scale them. If you draw them off, if you draw a Moonshadow off the top, it's rubbish. If you draw a Nethergoyf off the top, oh look, you've got like a 5 or 6 power creature. So there's definitely a risk of having too many scaling threats. We've got like two like actually scaling threats that need time to scale, and then the Channeler and the Nethergoyf are always going to be like on relatively quickly and be decent in this deck. Alright, I think that's us done for today. Please remember to like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this one and how you feel about Shredder. And if you want to buy any, you know where to go. 3-for-1 trading, link is in the description. Alright, thank you so much for watching and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.